Hello, and welcome to Lesson 3, What Do Immigrants Add to a Community? So in this lesson, you're going to use your investigative skills to look at the history of immigrants in the United States and what they have added to American life. Reading and talking about immigrants will help you understand how their contributions help make the United States a strong and diverse nation, and you'll be able to write about these different subjects as we go along and answer questions. Now, our primary source on this page, we can see that it says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, the tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." And over here, we see a picture of the Statue of Liberty found on Liberty Island in New York Harbor. Now on these pages, remember to look at the blue margins first. Read the title. What do you think this text will be about? Circle words you don't know. Underline the phrases that the author uses to describe Ellis Island. And then for number 2, it says reread, how was Ellis Island both a positive and negative experience for immigrants? Underline one good thing and one bad thing about arriving as an immigrant at Ellis Island. Talk about the reasons why an immigrant family might choose to come to the United States today. Does the poem on page 105 still describe those reasons? Why or why not? Explain your answer. And that was that short excerpt from the primary source that we read. Ellis Island, getaway to a new life, or gateway to a new life. During the 1800s, millions of immigrants arrived in the United States. They came to America seeking work, freedom, and a safe place to live. Towards the end of the 1800s, so many immigrants arrived here each year that some states had a hard time keeping track of the new arrivals. As a result, the U.S. government made a change. In 1890, President Benjamin Harrison chose Ellis Island as the site of the first federal immigration station. Ellis Island sits on New York Harbor. After a weeks-long journey by ship, new immigrants from Europe would spot the Statue of Liberty. They knew they had arrived in their new land. For most of them, the first stop would be Ellis Island. So here we can read and see that a lot of people left their homes and they came to the United States because they were either looking for work they couldn't find in their home country, they were looking for freedom if they were not being allowed to those same freedoms in their home country, whether it's religious freedom or otherwise, and a safe place to live in case their home was facing war or anything else. And so because there were so many people coming in at a time, the US president at the time, President Harrison, decided that Ellis Island would be the spot where all of the immigrants would come through to help keep track of the people that were entering the country at the time. So they would arrive by ship and they would all arrive on Ellis Island in New York Harbor. Inside the Ellis Island station, immigrants waited in long lines to be inspected. These new arrivals had to present official papers showing who they were and where they came from. Immigrants were also examined for illnesses or diseases. For many, this process could be scary and uncomfortable. Then the immigrants were allowed to enter the country. Ellis Island operated from 1892 to 1954. During that time, more than 12 million immigrants passed through its doors. At its busiest, more than 5,000 people entered the United States through Ellis Island each day. The immigration station was crowded and was not always a pleasant place to be, but it was a gateway to a new and hopefully better life. Ellis Island became a powerful symbol of the immigrant experience. So as people were entering and arriving at Ellis Island, they had to make sure they had identification paperwork to tell who they were, where they were coming from. They would get checked by doctors to see if they had any kind of sicknesses. If they did, they actually sent them back. So that was difficult for some people, especially anyone who got sick on the journey there. And although it was really busy and it was kind of an uncomfortable and frightening experience for people who were coming for the first time, trying to figure out where they were, a lot of people were able to pass through there fairly quickly and were able to start a new life and hopefully a better life. In the picture at the bottom, we can see that the Statue of Liberty on Liberty Island and the Immigration Center on Ellis Island in New York Harbor. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our next page And here we're going to talk about the point of view. An author's point of view is how he or she feels about the main topic of the text. The author may feel positive, negative, or somewhere in between, which is called neutral. Sometimes an author will say clearly how he or she feels. Other times you need to look carefully at the words that the author uses to describe the topic in order to recognize the point of view. So ways to do that is to read the text all the way through, look for words, phrases, and sentences that describe the topic, and make a decision about the author's point of view. So based on the text that we read, we're going to complete the chart underneath with details about Ellis Island. Now we noticed that the author said good things about it and he said bad things about it, he or she. Now they did say that it was kind of scary and uncomfortable. But then they also said that a lot of people were able to pass through fairly quickly and start a new life. So with those two details, we can decide that the author uses both positive and negative words to describe Ellis Island. So the author's point of view is neutral on this. He recognizes the good and the bad that was going on there. Now on the next page, it says investigate. Read page 108 to 115 in your research companion. Use your investigative skills to look for text evidence that tells the author's point of view about what immigrants added to the community, and then use the chart to help you organize your notes. So we're going to come up with a couple different details, and we're going to write the author's point of view. How does the author feel or think? What is their opinion on this topic? Let's go ahead and jump into our textbook. What do immigrants add to a community? Melting pot or quilt? Over 100 years ago, a man named Israel Zangwill wrote a play called The Melting Pot. The play showed how people from many places came together in the United States. These people helped build a new American culture. Since that time, people have used the term melting pot to describe the mix of people and cultures in the United States. Other people prefer to think of American culture as a quilt. Each piece of the quilt represents a unique culture. Although the pieces are all very different, each one is beautiful in its own way. When the pieces are stitched together, the result is a bright and colorful quilt unlike any other. In the same way, American culture is a beautiful blend of cultures that people bring from around the world. About 40 million Americans were born in another country. Every year, about 1 million immigrants become American citizens. Some come by boat, some on foot, others on airplanes. They often face hardships when they arrive in the United States. Each person brings food, clothing styles, music, holidays, and customs from his or her homeland. What they bring becomes part of the American quilt. So for our first detail that we can put into our graphic organizer, we can say that American culture is a blend of cultures that people bring from around the world. And we can see from while we were reading that the author is using a lot of positive words and phrases to describe this. So you can say that the author has a positive point of view because he or she uses a lot of positive words and phrases to describe the American culture. All right, immigrants throughout American history. Immigrants have always been a part of the American story. Even the founders of the country were descended from people from another country, which is many of them came from Great Britain when they moved over here. During the early 1800s, millions of Irish immigrants came to America. The potato crops in Ireland had failed and many people were starving. The Irish came here by boat to escape hunger and to look for work. They faced many challenges and unfair treatment when they arrived in the United States. During the mid-1800s, news that there was gold in California traveled around the world. Thousands of Chinese crossed the Pacific Ocean searching for economic opportunities. Many found work building railroads across the West, even though railroad companies did not treat Chinese workers equally. Immigrants from Europe arrived in record numbers during the early 1900s. The total included more than 4 million Italians. About 2 million Jewish people also came in that time. They were fleeing hatred and violence. Whenever immigrants arrived in America, they often look for communities that share their culture. Many cities have areas named after ethnic groups. Chinatown, Germantown, Little Italy, and Little India are just a few examples. Immigrants continue to seek a new life in America. Today, Mexico is where most immigrants were born. People from the Caribbean, China, and India also immigrate to the United States in large numbers. Though they may face many challenges, they are also a part of American history. So another thing we can add to our graphic organizer on this page is that immigrants have always been a part of American history. And the author uses a lot of strong sentences and strong words to talk about the immigrants and how they were coming in record numbers, they were coming seeking opportunities, but also that they were treated unfairly. They weren't treated the same way people from Great Britain were treated. And this goes to show that unfortunately there were a lot of prejudices at the time against the people that were coming in, against any culture that looked different from what the European culture looked like. Contributions of immigrants to American culture. Food is one way we experience other cultures. Immigrants from all over the world bring their favorite recipes with them when they come here. In most cities, people have a wide variety of ethnic food choices. Japanese sushi, Mexican tacos, Thai curries, and Italian pizzas are popular foods to eat. Even many foods that we think of as American today were originally introduced by immigrants. Hamburgers and hot dogs, for example, were both made popular by German Americans. Immigrants have also influenced American music, dance, games, and art. K-pop music comes from South Korea. The game Mancala comes from Africa. Anime is a type of animation that comes from Japan. Salsa dancing comes from the Caribbean. Many American inventors immigrated to the United States. For example, Nikola Tesla came from Croatia. He developed a better way to power motors and lighting systems. Recently, immigrants from Russia, Syria, Brazil, Taiwan, Cuba, and South Africa have had important roles in creating the largest American technology companies. Immigrants continue to help our nation succeed. They add their ideas, energy, and expertise to make America stronger. Biography. In 1997, Madeleine Albright made history when she became the first female Secretary of State. Madeleine was born in 1937 in Czechoslovakia. In 1948, Madeleine and her family moved to America. She attended college in the United States, became a citizen, and began working for the government. Her specialty was foreign affairs or working with other nations. In 1997, President Bill Clinton chose her as Secretary of State. The Secretary of State is in charge of the department that helps the president handle the U.S.'s relationship with other countries. She served until 2001. All right, now we can take a look at our next section. So we've already completed 2 of the detailed sections. The third one we can talk about is that immigrants contributed to American culture. And we can see that the author here provides many examples to show the positive contributions of immigrants to American culture. So he has a very positive point of view on it. Around the world in the USA, many American holidays celebrate immigrant cultures. Today, Americans of many different backgrounds take part in the celebrations. These celebrations are a great way to recognize the diversity of American culture. St. Patrick's Day. St. Patrick's Day began as a religious holiday in Ireland. In the United States, it's become a way to celebrate Irish culture. During the 1800s, many poor Irish immigrants came to America. They were often met with prejudice. St. Patrick's Day made them feel proud of their culture. Today, many cities have large parades. The city of Chicago even dyes the Chicago River green for a day. Chinese New Year. Chinese New Year began in late January and late February each year. This Chinese holiday brings families together to feast and prepare for the new year. Everyone in the family works to clean the home. This task brings good luck for the coming year. America's biggest cities hold festivals for Chinese New Year and Chinese New Year parades. The parades feature dancing dragons, traditional clothing, and lots of fireworks. Dia de los Muertos. Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, is a Mexican holiday. Families come together to remember their ancestors and relatives who have died. Families and friends light candles for those who've passed away. They also display the favorite foods and objects of their ancestors. Later in the day, families bring picnics to cemeteries so they can be close to their deceased loved ones. Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras is a celebration in New Orleans. Mardi Gras means Fat Tuesday in French. It happens each year on the last day before the Christian season of Lent. People eat big meals, they parade through the streets in costumes, and dance to loud marching jazz bands. The first Mardi Gras celebration in the Americas was held in 1699. Okay, now we've gone through at least 3 of our main ideas here. Other things that we can add is we can talk, for example, specifically about food. So you can say that many of the foods that are enjoyed today or that are thought of as American cuisine are actually come from Germany. So for example, the hamburger and the hot dog were both German cuisines. And you can see that the author has a positive point of view on that, that you can thank them for these things, that these things are very tasty. Another thing we can put in for our last one is we can discuss the different holidays that we talked about. Many American holidays that are practiced in the US came from other cultures. And we can see that the author has a very positive point of view because he's talking about celebrations and bringing people together. All right, that takes us through our first 2 pages here. Now for our next section in the Think About It and Write About It section, it says review your research based on the information that you've gathered. What contributions have immigrants made to American culture? Write a newspaper article about something immigrants have added to American culture. Tell how you think this has affected your community. Use details that will help people understand your point of view. So make sure you're using examples from the text that we read from the 2 pages before these, from the textbook pages as well. Describe one of the contributions, whichever one you decide, and use a lot of details to support your idea about how this is an important contribution. And then on the last page, where it says connect to the essential question, have you experienced other cultures in your community? Think about foods you've eaten, events you've attended, and people that you've met. How do they make your community unique? So please use lots of examples here and give lots of detail in your answers. And that takes us to the end of this lesson. So I hope you guys have a great day. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, take care. Bye-bye.